They say mate bonds are sacred, unbreakable things, the universe's gift to every wolf, a promise of eternal devotion and belonging. For most wolves, discovering their mate is the pinnacle of existence, the moment when everything finally makes sense. The bond is meant to complete you, protect you, anchor you to something greater than yourself. Melissa Martinez supposes that's true for the lucky ones. But not when you're 6 months pregnant and your mate, the one the universe supposedly chose for you, stands before the assembled packs and chooses someone else instead. Not when he looks past your swollen belly carrying his child and announces your beautiful cousin as his Luna, as if you were nothing more than a temporary inconvenience he's finally ready to discard. In that particular case, Melissa's case, the sacred bond becomes a noose, tightening with every word that falls from his lips. This gathering isn't a celebration but an execution, public and precise. Because for the entirety of this humiliation, Melissa must stand there with her hand pressed protectively against her belly, must hold herself together while the bond she trusted shatters like glass inside her chest, must watch Sofia's triumphant smile while her own wolf howls in agony. This moment isn't about destiny but betrayal. It isn't the beginning of her story, but what everyone expects to be the end. The rejected Omega with the shameful pregnancy, a cautionary tale whispered in warning. She'd trusted Derek completely. She'd believed the bond was real, that their child would be celebrated. But he had chosen Sofia, chosen power and beauty over the life growing inside Melissa, and that was that. Leaving Melissa with nothing but the crumbs of a broken bond and the weight of a child who would never know their father's love. At least, that's what Melissa had resigned herself to believe, that nothing could hurt more than rejection while pregnant, that no pain could exceed the horror of having your mate sever the bond while your baby kicks against your hand, oblivious to the destruction unfolding around them. But fate has a way of proving us wrong. Because even now, as blood begins to seep and the rejection threatens to kill both mother and child, even as Melissa flees into the winter darkness toward the forbidden boundary everyone fears, something waits for her there. Something ancient. Something fierce. Hidden deep in the dark territory beyond the packlands, red eyes have already locked onto her, tracking her scent through the snow. And Melissa Martinez is about to discover that rejection and heartbreak were nothing, child's play, compared to the exquisite, all-consuming danger of being wanted too much. Of being claimed by a love so primal and possessive it doesn't ask permission. Of being recognized as a true mate by the most feared wolf in all the territories, Anna Wilson, the Dark Alpha King, whose hunger for her destined mate has waited decades to be satisfied. Some rejections break your heart. Others break your soul. But Melissa's? Hers is about to break everything, the corrupt pack hierarchy, the laws that condemned her, the very fabric of their world, because the child in her belly carries the power to shatter kingdoms. And the wolf emerging from the darkness has finally found what she's been hunting for. The woman who will stand beside her and burn it all down. The annual winter solstice gathering was meant to be Melissa's moment, not just for the ceremonial fires and the changing of the guard, but for the life-changing announcement she carried. Beneath the heavy woolen cloak, her hand was pressed over the small, firm curve of her belly, the secret she was ready to share with the entire Crescent Pack. She watched with a hopeful smile as Derek, her mate, ascended the podium under the light of the full moon. But his eyes, when they finally met hers, were distant, colder than the falling snow. Wolves of the Crescent Pack, Derek's voice boomed, crushing the air from Melissa's lungs. I stand before you to choose my Luna and mate. I choose Sofia. A collective gasp swept through the assembled crowd, but Melissa heard only a high-pitched, ringing silence. Her protective hand tightened over her abdomen as the mate bond, the sacred tie she thought was unbreakable, didn't just break, it was violently ripped out, described in her chest as tearing glass shards. The world swam. As Derek placed the Luna mark on her cousin Sofia, Sofia's eyes locked onto Melissa's. "Did you really think he'd choose someone so plain?" she whispered, a triumphant smirk twisting her lips. "Especially now that you're damaged goods?" The humiliation was a physical wound. Then, the true agony began, a sharp, tearing pain in her lower abdomen, quickly followed by the warm, unmistakable rush of blood soaking through her clothes. The rejection wasn't just breaking her heart, it was killing the tiny life inside her. Blindly, fueled only by the primal need to protect the life leaking away, Melissa pushed through the horrified pack members and ran. She fled into the unforgiving winter forest, the cold air burning her lungs, the blood loss weakening her with every desperate step. She didn't stop until she reached the treacherous line of the forbidden dark territory, the one boundary no wolf ever crossed, and lived to tell of it. Collapsing onto the snow, the last thing she saw was the blood blooming crimson against the white. Then, two red eyes materialized from the shadows, massive and terrifying. A fierce growl, deep and utterly commanding, broke the silence. Powerful arms, not Derek's, but stronger, scooped her against a hard chest. "You're bleeding, you're pregnant, and you're mine." Anna Wilson, the feared Dark Alpha King, carried Melissa across the boundary, her voice low and furious. "Touch her, and I will end you all." The scent of dried herbs and wood smoke replaced the sharp metallic tang of blood and snow. Melissa woke to warmth, the plush furs beneath her a stark contrast to the unforgiving forest floor. She lay in a massive, opulent bedroom carved from dark stone, but the gilded cage only heightened her terror. Where was she? Who was the alpha that had snatched her? She remembered red eyes and a command that promised death. She scrambled to sit up, her hand flying instinctively to her stomach. The hemorrhage had stopped, the pain a dull ache rather than a searing fire. Before she could swing her legs off the bed, the heavy timber door opened and the Dark Alpha King entered. Anna Wilson was not the hulking, monstrous male Melissa had been taught to fear. She was a striking woman, radiating ruthless power, yet her ancient eyes held a depth of sorrow and surprising gentleness. She carried a steaming bowl of broth and sat by the bed. "Don't move," Anna commanded, her voice low but not unkind. "You're safe here, but barely." Melissa tried to retreat against the pillows. Why did you bring me here?" "My pack will send hunters." "Let them come," Anna snarled, a flash of red returning to her eyes. "They'll find only their graves." She met Melissa's gaze, the intensity almost physically painful. "The rejection didn't just break the bond, Melissa. It shattered it. That severance is still inside you, poisoning you slowly. It's what caused the bleeding. It's killing you and your unborn child from within." A knot of icy fear gripped Melissa's throat. "What are you?" "A monster." "I am an alpha," Anna corrected, the term ringing with absolute authority. "And a healer. I may be known as the Dark King, but I will do everything in my power to ensure you and that baby survive." Driven by a sudden, frantic need to flee, Melissa pushed herself off the bed. Her legs instantly gave out, weakened by blood loss and the lingering spiritual trauma. Before she could hit the floor, Anna moved with terrifying speed, catching Melissa in a firm, steady embrace. "You're not a prisoner," Anna murmured, helping her back onto the furs. "But you are also not leaving this fortress until I know for certain that you and that child will survive the damage your former maid inflicted. Not even you can outrun death, Melissa. Not yet." Anna's care was meticulous, almost ritualistic. She applied warm poultices to Melissa's abdomen and administered bitter teas, explaining the ancient herbs that fought against the spiritual poison of the shattered bond. As she worked, She spoke not as the feared Alpha King, but as a woman haunted by loss. She revealed how years ago, the very packs who now feared her had targeted her own family, murdering her mate and cubs in a bid to steal her territory and crush her power. That tragedy, she explained, had hardened her, forcing her to become the ruthless, distant figure the world now knew. Melissa began to see past the terror-inducing reputation to the protective, grieving core of the woman holding her life in her hands. But the fragile safety shattered when a messenger from the Crescent Pack breached Anna's outer defenses. He was a slick, sneering wolf named Corvin, carrying a scroll marked with Derek's seal. He didn't look at Melissa, only spoke to Anna. Pack law requires the return of the rejected partner, Corvin announced, his voice oily. The Alpha demands her return to avoid scandal and allow for the proper cleansing of the line. Anna's eyes narrowed to slits. She is not property to be reclaimed. She is my guest. Corvin sneered, his gaze finally flicking to Melissa's still prominent belly. The pack has branded the pregnancy a shame. A stain on the Alpha line that must be eliminated before the child can be born and contaminate the blood. Return her, or face the consequences of harboring an outcast and her filthy bloodline. The words struck Melissa harder than the rejection itself. They didn't just want her gone, they wanted her baby dead. A sound ripped from Anna's throat, a deep, guttural snarl that shook the stone walls. In a blur of motion, Anna seized Corvin by his throat and hurled him through the heavy wooden door, the wood cracking on impact. "Return to your false Alpha," Anna commanded, her voice vibrating with barely contained violence. "Tell him if he or any of his dogs step foot on my land again, I will personally wear his hide as a trophy." When Corvin's terrified yelps faded, Anna turned and found Melissa silently weeping, tears tracking paths through the sweat and fear on her face. Anna sank down beside her, pulling her close against the hard, safe warmth of her body. Melissa didn't resist, burying her face against the dark Alpha King's shoulder, finally realizing the cold truth. The world she had known, her former family, wanted her baby to die. Anna Wilson, the dark Alpha King, was the only thing standing between them and the knife. The days blurred into nights, filled with healing teas, shared silence, and the heavy weight of Anna's unspoken protection. As the poison of the rejection bond slowly receded, a strange, undeniable pull began to replace the emptiness in Melissa's chest. It wasn't the familiar, comfortable warmth she'd felt with Derek. This was a fierce, almost magnetic draw, deeply primal and terrifyingly urgent. When Anna's hand brushed hers while adjusting the blankets, a bolt of pure, blazing energy shot up Melissa's arm, not hurting, but healing. One evening, after watching Melissa carefully drink the last of her healing brew, Anna turned, her ancient eyes suddenly vulnerable. "I can feel it, too," she confessed, her voice thick. "The tether between us. It's growing stronger than any mate bond I've ever experienced." Melissa swallowed, her heart hammering against her ribs. "But I was Derek's mate. I was rejected. I can't have another." Anna took Melissa's hands, her grip firm and warm. "The bond you felt with Derek was a lie. A carefully crafted illusion. It was artificial, woven with dark, controlling magic to keep your true nature suppressed and hidden. Derek was never your mate." She paused, the weight of her next words shaking the air. "I am. You are my true mate, Melissa." Melissa stared, stunned into disbelief. Her whole life had been defined by the love and later the rejection of one man. How could it all have been a carefully constructed prison? "But I'm broken. I'm carrying another man's child. How could the Dark Alpha King want someone like me?" Anna's wolf was close to the surface now, a low growl of pure, possessive certainty rumbling in her chest. She cupped Melissa's face, forcing her to meet those intense, striking eyes. "You're not broken. You're pregnant with bloodlines they fear, royal blood. You are fierce, protective, and wholly worthy of my wolf's adoration. The magic failed to hide you from me. My wolf recognized you instantly, Melissa. We cried out for you the moment you crossed my border." Anna's gaze scorched her, claiming territory Melissa hadn't known she possessed. "You are mine," Anna declared, the alpha command undeniable. Then her voice softened to a raw plea. "If you will have me." The stillness of the fortress shattered near dawn. A fierce, coordinated attack struck Anna's most secure wing. Melissa awoke to the sound of fighting, snarls, the crack of bone, and the sharp thwack of weapons. Two figures, masked and silent, burst into her chamber. They didn't come for Anna, they came for her. She was shoved roughly against the wall, but before she could scream, Anna's guards, huge, disciplined wolves, slammed into the intruders. The fight was brutal and fast. Anna arrived in a flash, her wolf barely contained, tearing through the remaining assassins with terrifying efficiency. They were elite, well-trained, and bore no recognized pack markings. As Anna's wolves secured the bodies, she examined the intruders' gear, her expression grim. "They are mercenaries. Hired." This was not a pack dispute. Melissa sank back onto the bed, trembling. Derek's anger was one thing, but this was a professional execution attempt. A chilling clarity dawned. The conspiracy ran deeper than mere rejection. Someone with immense resources and power wanted her and her unborn baby dead before the birth. Anna realized it too, her jaw tight. Without hesitation, she assigned her two most lethal guards, shadows with eyes as watchful as her own, to Melissa's room, locking down the entire fortress. As Melissa tried to process the relentless hatred directed at her unborn child, a profound shift occurred. Lying still, recovering from the shock, she felt a powerful, undeniable movement. It wasn't a gentle flutter. It was a kick, hard, demanding, and utterly saturated with power. A visible wave of golden, vibrant energy emanated from her womb, radiating outwards. The two hardened guards instantly collapsed to their knees, groaning, their heads bowed as if before a king. Anna, standing closest, stumbled back a step, shock freezing her features. Melissa clutched her belly, stunned and terrified by the power she had just unleashed. The silence was broken only by Anna's ragged breath. The Dark Alpha King stepped forward, kneeling beside Melissa, her dark eyes wide with awe and dawning terror. "That child," Anna whispered, her voice barely audible. "That was pure alpha energy. Ancient. Royal. Melissa, what bloodline are you really from?" The question hung heavy in the air. What bloodline are you really from? Anna's pack historian, a frail but brilliant older wolf named Lyra, worked tirelessly in the fortress archives, cross-referencing ancient genealogies with the fragmented information Anna provided. The results arrived 3 days later, shattering Melissa's carefully constructed reality. Lyra spread out brittle, antique documents detailing a royal lineage thought long extinct. Melissa wasn't merely a pack wolf. She was the last living descendant of the original Alpha King bloodline, a heritage so powerful it had been erased from current history books. Her parents, the last reigning Alpha King and Queen, had been assassinated when she was an infant. To protect the child and, more sinisterly, to keep the ancient power from being used, the conspirators had suppressed her memories and bound her royal wolf into dormancy using specialized dark magic. She had been secretly placed in Derek's pack, raised as an unassuming Omega, the perfect vessel to be controlled and ultimately destroyed. The terrifying power burst that radiated from her womb during the attack was the sound of the ancient magic failing. The pregnancy, a powerful act of creation, had begun to awaken her dormant royal wolf. Anna's jaw was granite. Sofia. She knew. The pieces clicked into place. Sofia wasn't just a jealous cousin. She was a key player in the conspiracy, likely working for the ruling council that feared the monarchy's return. She had orchestrated the public rejection with chilling precision, knowing that the artificial mate bond, when forcibly severed, would act as a lethal spiritual poison against a royal wolf, ensuring Melissa and the royal heir died quietly of heartbreak and miscarriage. Derek was a pawn, too blinded by Sofia's calculated charms and his own ambition to realize he was merely a tool used to eliminate a royal threat. Melissa felt dizzy, not from weakness, but from the sudden, violent influx of truth. Her whole life was a lie, a carefully constructed illusion meant to keep her powerless. The rejection wasn't about her worthlessness, it was about the worth of the blood running in her veins. Her fear transformed into a cold, royal rage. She wasn't just a rejected Omega, she was the last heir to a throne, and her baby was the target of a kingdom-wide conspiracy. The hunters weren't chasing shame, they were hunting royalty. The fortress's alarm horn blared, a deep, mournful sound that signaled imminent war. Melissa rushed to the high window, Anna already at her side, radiating cold fury. Below, gathered just beyond the perimeter, was the full force of the Crescent Pack, organized and armed. Leading them was Derek, flanked by Sofia, who was now openly displaying a subtle swelling beneath her cloak, a visible claim to Derek's future. Derek's challenge echoed across the snowy plains, amplified by Alpha Command. I invoke the blood challenge. I demand the return of my rejected mate under ancient law, or I will fight the Dark King to the death for the right to reclaim my honor. Sofia leaned into Derek, whispering fiercely, her eyes burning with malicious triumph. Melissa realized Sofia had manufactured this showdown, ensuring Derek's public reclamation attempt would force Anna into a lethal confrontation, securing her own position while eliminating the true royal line. Anna turned, her jaw clenched. I will meet him. He'll never touch you or the child. Her Dark Pack members moved into position, ready to die defending their king. A devastating truth settled over Melissa. This entire conflict, this impending bloodbath, was because of her. She, the last true heir, was the prize and the target. She could stop the bloodshed, save Anna's innocent pack, and perhaps even buy time for her baby by surrendering herself back to Derek, submitting to the reclamation, which she knew was a death sentence. As the impossible choice screamed in her mind, her baby kicked. Not a gentle movement, but a violent, commanding surge of power, as if protesting the thought of surrender. It was a clear, unmistakable refusal. No, you will not sacrifice us. Melissa placed her hands over the spot where the royal alpha was rebelling. She had two choices: surrender and condemn herself and her baby to a slow, controlled death to save the Dark Pack, or fully embrace the destiny Anna offered, trusting the Dark Alpha King to protect them both and risking everyone's life in the process. The time for hiding was over. The time for choosing had come. Melissa pushed past Anna's frantic protests, the protests of her guards, and walked toward the gates. She didn't hesitate, stepping out into the frigid no-man's land between the two assembled armies. Derek and Sofia stood opposite Anna, the air thick with menace and the scent of war. She lifted her chin, meeting Derek's furious gaze. Her voice, though strained, carried the new, unfamiliar resonance of authority. I stand before the Pax and ancient law. I denounce the false bond. I choose Anna Wilson as my true mate, my alpha, and my protector. Derek erupted in a howl of enraged humiliation. She is compromised. She is mine. Ignoring the ancient ritual demands, he lunged forward, drawing on forbidden dark magic. A poisonous, black cord of energy shot from his hand, aiming to forcibly rebond to Melissa's spirit, a ritual that would instantly kill the baby and enslave Melissa. "No!" Anna roared. Her control snapped. The fearsome, massive dark alpha king wolf exploded from her, not merely shifting, but transforming into a creature of elemental fury, black as shadow, teeth bared, red eyes blazing like judgment. As the black magic coiled around her, a power Melissa had never known erupted from her core. Her suppressed wolf tore free of its ancient bindings with a soundless scream, surging to the surface. It wasn't the small, unassuming wolf she expected. It was massive, powerful, with silvery white fur and an undeniable aura of regal authority. The royal wolf of the Alpha Kings had returned. Melissa pushed back against Derek's magic, and her baby, sensing the threat, unleashed its latent power. A blinding shockwave of pure, golden alpha energy pulsed from her womb, forcing every wolf, regardless of rank, including Derek and Sofia, to their knees in absolute submission. In that moment of perfect power, Melissa bared her throat to Anna's waiting muzzle. Anna completed the dark claiming ritual, a bite that was both possessive and protective. The bond blazed into existence, a searing flash of gold and crimson that met the baby's shockwave, shattering Derek's false, black claim into dust forever. The last vestiges of the rejection bond vanished, replaced by the stabilizing, fierce love of the Dark Alpha King. Melissa was no longer the rejected Omega, she was the claimed Dark Queen. The combined power of the claiming and the royal heir's burst of energy left no room for denial. Melissa's lineage was undeniable, her massive wolf a living testament to the history they tried to bury. Derek's pack fractured instantly. Many wolves, recognizing the genuine alpha blood, turned their backs on their false leader and pledged loyalty to Melissa. The subsequent investigation, led by a newly energized Lyra and Anna's ruthless enforcers, quickly exposed the full scope of Sofia's conspiracy. She had used dark magic to slowly poison the artificial mate bond, hired the assassins, and manipulated Derek into the public rejection, all to seize power and extinguish the Alpha King line. Sofia was stripped of her status, tried for treason, and exiled into the desolate fringes of the kingdom, a fate worse than death. Derek, utterly broken, his alpha status revoked by the power of the true claim, watched the woman he chose walk into the shadows while the woman he rejected became queen. He realized too late he hadn't just lost a mate, he had destroyed his destiny. With the immediate threat neutralized, Anna guided Melissa, helping her navigate the torrent of recovered royal memories. They moved immediately to rewrite the fundamental codes of their society. Under the new decree, born of Melissa's suffering and Anna's fury, rejection of pregnant mates was forbidden and punishable by the severest law. Mothers and children were declared sacred and inviolable. The Dark Queen had risen, bringing with her the balance the kingdoms desperately needed, the righteous authority of the ancient monarchy, tempered by the unwavering, dark justice of Anna Wilson. They had shattered the corrupt hierarchy, replacing it with a reign built on protection and absolute accountability. 3 months after the claiming, in the deepest part of winter, the fortress was filled not with the tension of war, but with the quiet anticipation of life. Melissa went into labor surrounded by Anna's loyal pack and the wolves who had followed their true queen. Anna, who had been an image of fierce coldness to the world, never left Melissa's side, her voice low and surprisingly gentle, coaching her through every wrenching contraction. The first cry was fierce and strong. Melissa birthed a daughter with her own dark, flowing hair and the fierce, striking eyes of Anna Wilson, the rightful heir to the Dark Alpha King's power. Then, a surprise, a twin son, delivered moments later, his hair a shock of silver, his eyes glowing gold with undeniable, ancient royal energy. Both babies were healthy, perfect, and already radiating such pure alpha auras that the entire room bowed their heads in respect. Melissa was crowned Dark Queen in a private, solemn ceremony, a ritual that unified the territories under the new law she and Anna created, a reign dedicated to protection, fierce justice, and the absolute sanctity of all mothers and their children. The story ended in a quiet moment, Melissa seated by the fire, nursing her twins, the Dark King watching their family with an expression of profound, protective wonder. She was no longer the fragile, rejected Omega haunted by a shameful pregnancy, but the powerful queen who had birthed the future. Far away, watching from the isolated edges of his exile, Derek saw the light of the coronation fires. Alone and stripped of everything, he finally understood. He hadn't just rejected Melissa. He had rejected his destiny and forever doomed himself to a life defined by catastrophic, eternal regret.